The Mariners put up an offensive explosion with 8 runs. They almost complete a shutout. They play one of their most complete games of the year. We do have some injury news to discuss as well, some roster moves, so a busy post-game recap. That's why I brought a little help today. MarinersSUR is joining me to break this all down. What is up? What is going on? Everybody, welcome back into the Mariners post-game recap. Before I dive into, as always, do me a favor, smash that like button. If you're new here or you're just lurking, hit that subscribe button. Like and subscribe are just 2 free, easy ways to help support the channel. And if you are not, head over to Twitter X. Give MarinersSUR a follow on there. Link to his account will be in the description down below. Appreciate you joining me for this post-game recap, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me on. Excited to talk a win.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to be able to break down a pretty solid W. Unfortunately, though, some injury things we want to get into first. A lot of roster moves and stuff that happened today, and Justin Hollander gave some updates. So we're going to start with that, break that down a little bit. Then we'll get into the game. And unfortunately, maybe another piece of injury news that happened during the game with Brian Wu. So we're going to both be keeping tabs on Twitter to see if we hear anything with that while we're doing the show. I'll run down the news real quick, and then I'll get MarinersSUR's thoughts on it. But obviously not too surprised, but Hollander confirmed that Matt Brash did have Tommy John surgery on Wednesday. I think we all knew that was coming, but still disappointing to hear. Gregory Santos kind of sounds like he's just in limbo, kind of the same stuff where he's throwing, but then kind of has setbacks, and now they're talking maybe July. It just kind of seems like the same stuff there. Good news, though. Dominic Canzone looks like he's going to start a rehab assignment possibly this weekend. And then there was some talk that J.P. Crawford may actually be back on this homestand. So there is some really good news. What are your thoughts on the injury reports?
Yeah, on the hitting, definitely good news. I listened to Hollander's report today. So it sounds like Canzone starting a rehab assignment tomorrow. Plan is for him to play 4 games, and then they'll see where he's at. So I think that'll take him to Tuesday. I think they're in Reno for the next 4 days. So I guess with him, he'll probably travel with the team Friday to Baltimore if everything checks out well. And then, JP, they mentioned being activated this homestand. I don't know if that was wishful thinking, because then Hollander kind of mentioned a rehab assignment for him as well. But who knows? He may only need a game or 2, and he could be back Monday. But that's exciting. Both of them last year didn't strike out a ton. Not that striking out is everything in the lineup, but getting both of them back, that's huge. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. No worries. No mistakes.
Then, on pitching, Brash, we knew that was coming. Santos, that's interesting to me. It sounds like it wasn't a huge setback, but now you're June to July, so something must have happened there. And, at this point, I think anything you get for him is an added bonus, but we could certainly use him. Stanek and Spire have been good setting it up for Munoz, but not great. And getting another lights out reliever like Santos could be would be a huge boost. So fingers crossed that when July comes, we do see Santos back.
Oh, and you can look at the Santos thing, and hopefully we do get him back in July. I'm losing a little bit of the optimism with it, because it just seems like we're hearing the same thing and it keeps getting pushed back. But if you can't get him back in July, at that point, as much as you'd love to have him early in the year, that's a great deadline acquisition to add Gregory Santos to this bullpen. So that's kind of how I'll choose to look at that. If you can get him back at that time frame, is that, we've talked about this team adding a bullpen arm. If you can add Gregory Santos at the deadline, that's a great addition. Obviously, tough news on Matt Brash. I did want to ask you, because I've seen kind of some people talk about it that, the Mariners should have just had him get the surgery right away. And my thought is like, well, initially you're trying to work through it. You want to see if a little rest and then a little rehab can get him back out there. And if he's going to get the Tommy John, you're going to be in the same position anyways. Yes, maybe he's back in May as opposed to June of next year. Do you have any thoughts on that? I don't think the Mariners did really anything wrong with the way they handled Brash. Do you?
No, I'd agree with you. I think, you try to get him back this year, and it sounded like his velocity was there when, he was kind of ramping back up. And so, with that, there was certainly some promise. And then, the elbow obviously was kind of hanging on. And so it ended up giving out. But to your point, he missed maybe a couple extra months next year, but you also have to play for the short term too. And I'm sure if something was seriously wrong, they would have shut him down and did the Tommy John immediately. So it's unfortunate is all it is. And feel awful for Matt.
Yeah, exactly. It's just an unfortunate situation when a pitcher has to go through this. We saw it last year with Robbie Ray as well, and kind of the same thing. They went a month, tried to work through it, tried to progress, think maybe we can get him back. And listen, you're still trying to get things going 2024. I get it. I'm sure, like you said, if they knew right away it needed Tommy John, they would have shut him down. But that's not always the case. You think just some soreness, try to work through it. Didn't work out. And to your point, I think getting JP and Canzone back is going to be huge. My thing with getting those guys back is not only that it's going to allow you to rest Mitch Haniger a little bit, it's going to allow you to use Dylan Moore, who had a great game tonight, in more of that utility role as well. So it really should lengthen your lineup to get both of those guys back in there.
Yep, completely agree.
And then, unfortunately, we thought we were going to be done with injury news, but then Brian Wu makes his season debut, looked fantastic through 4 1/3. Left the start. They said it was precautionary. Initially, my thought, looks like you're looking at Twitter. Do you have any updates there? I see you kind of looking at the screen.
Yeah.
Maybe you got something for. Okay.
Yep. Adam Jude, 32 seconds ago. I'll just read it here. Brian Wu was tight in his forearm coming out of the 5th inning. Service wanted to take him out as precaution. And what's next is I think he's going to be fine, Service said. So that's positive, but we will see.
I always say with pitchers, and I even said this with Matt Brash when there was the rumors that okay, we think he's going to be fine. And this is not anything I'm blaming Scott for or management for, but until I see the pitcher back on the mound, I'm always nervous about pitcher injuries. So until I see Brian Wu back on the mound, I will have some reservation, but that is a great initial report to hear.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like maybe it was a long inning before and he was just a little bit tight coming out of it. So, yeah, hopefully kind of the initial check looks good. I'd be surprised if he makes his next turn, but, I think maybe best case is, I don't know, 2 or 3 starts to kind of let this settle down. So fingers crossed, but that's, I think, a better update than I was maybe hoping for.
Yeah, because we were talking before we came on the show here, and I think we both agreed initially we just kind of thought precautionary. Mariners, I don't want to say you had the game in the bag yet, but you felt pretty good against Oakland's offense that 5-0 would hold up, and that maybe they were just being careful, taking Wu out there, a little discomfort. But then we both saw the tweet where, according to Game Day, he threw a couple sliders at 88 miles per hour, but we watched the video, clearly 2 fastballs that he threw at 88 miles per hour. So we both were very concerned before we started this show about that injury. So a definite sigh of relief there. And I agree, if he's got to miss a couple starts, that's okay. This rotation is good enough that can withstand that. But they'll definitely need Brian Wu if they want to make a run.
Yep.
All right, so that takes care of the injury front. Looks like we're getting some good news there on Brian Wu. I think all in all, my assessment, I'll get yours. Listen, the Brash news stinks. I think we knew it was coming. Santos is kind of in the same boat. I think overall, actually, I might sound crazy. And then especially we take this Brian Wu news into consideration, I think pretty good news that JP and Canzone are on their way back. Hopefully Wu's okay. I think overall a positive report.
Yep, completely agree. Yeah, injuries are going to happen. So, yeah, it's good to get some of the cavalry back coming, especially, with the lineup. So that's a huge relief to get Canzone and JP on their way.
Yep, definitely. And then let's dive into the game. The Mariners defeat the Oakland Athletics tonight, 8-1. They improved to 21-18 on the season. Texas loses to Colorado, so the Mariners are now a half game back on first place. What were your thoughts on the game tonight?
Yeah, I mean, a great bounce back win after that tough one in Minnesota yesterday. Those types of games happen in the season, but always good to get right back out the next day and get a huge win. And we'll dive into some of the individual performances, but there was a couple, I think, encouraging signs there too. But most importantly, to get an 8-1 win, get back in the win column, and also be able to, get a win while resting some of your leverage relievers is always a bonus as well.
Yeah, and listen, that's one thing about yesterday's game, as rough as it was. You got your main relievers kind of that day off, and another one today. And my thing, a game like yesterday, as frustrating as it is, like you said, it does happen. Pablo Lopez is really good, and mash right-handed pitching, and you found a way to bounce back the next day. You don't let a loss like that spiral, and that's, I think, key. And this is an A's team that's playing okay. They're not the same A's as last year, so a real nice win. Let's go ahead and dive into the box score a little bit here. Brian Wu, 4 1/3, 1 hit, 1 walk, 3 Ks. Did leave for precautionary reasons. Again, sounds like he's going to be okay, according to Scott. What were your thoughts on Wu's start today?
Yeah, I thought he looked exactly kind of what you expect from Brian Wu, right? I mean, a couple different fastballs, change up slider, attacks a strike zone, um, doesn't really get barreled up at all. So, I mean, it's exactly what I think you would hope to see from Wu and kind of what we got accustomed to seeing from him last year as well. So, a very encouraging first start.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I think Emerson Hancock battled and did a fine job as the replacement fit starter, but really nice to have Brian Wu back in this rotation. And hopefully, maybe he's got to miss a start or two, but can stabilize it, not stabilize rotation, but stay in the rotation and be healthy because Brian Wu's a lot better than Emerson Hancock in my opinion. So nice to have. Then Trent Thornton inning in a third, 2 hits, 2 Ks, does his job. Kirby Snead, an inning and a third with 3 strikeouts. He's looked pretty good so far since coming up. Any thoughts on Kirby Snead?
Yeah, I missed his first outing against Minnesota, so I was happy to watch him
Yep.
today. But yeah, I thought he looked really good. Coming from the left side, it looks like it might be a little bit tough for lefties to pick up. I don't know if it was playing his old team today, but his velocity was a little bit more than I was expecting. But a really good slider. But yeah, I thought he actually looked very, very good. So I'm curious to see more of him moving forward.
Well, one nice thing the Mariners have gotten, that's the other actually piece of injury news I forgot to mention. Taylor Saucedo sounds like he might just miss the minimum 15 days.
Mhm.
Um, and Kirby Snead, I think it might have been you that mentioned on Twitter, and I'll actually talk about the roster move today as well, because I do want to get into that. Kirby Snead essentially taking Taylor Saucedo's spot on the roster, that kind of second lefty behind Gabe Spire. And so far, so good. I did want to talk a little about the roster move. They DFA'd Tyson Miller for Brian Wu to be activated. I was a little surprised by that. Now, listen, I don't think that losing Tyson Miller is going to make or break this season by any means, but I thought we might see like Cody Bolton option because he has options, or even Bizardo. I like Bizardo, but those guys both have options. I was a little surprised to see them DFA Tyson Miller.
Yeah, I would agree. Because Tyson Miller looked pretty good, and they talked him up pretty highly in spring
Yeah.
training, and so completely agree that with Bolton and um, Bizzardo having an option, I would have thought they would have kept Miller just in to keep the 40-man depth too. So
Yeah.
they must really like what they see with Bolton and Bizzardo and feel like whatever gain they perceive they're going to get was worth the potential of losing Miller off the 40-man. But yeah, that one did catch me by surprise.
Yeah, and not something I think either of us are gonna lose sleep over. I mean, this team is just pumped out good reliever after. I mean, Kirby Snead comes up and has looked
Mhm.
great, and I do like Bizzardo. I think I would prefer Bizzardo over Tyson Miller. But to your point, usually in those situations, teams don't like to DFA guys, and it's just easier to option a player than it is to DFA someone. So to your point, they must. I get what they see in Bizzardo. I think Bolton's been fine. As well. So, I get it. I'm not going to lose sleep over. It was just more of a surprise to see them DFA somebody there. But, and
Yeah.
then Cody Bolton pitches an inning tonight, shutout inning with a walk and a strikeout. Austin Voth has a little bit of trouble in the ninth, but not much to break down there as the game was 8-0 already. And, I'm not going to judge pitchers how they pitch in those type of games at that point. Let's move into the offense. First, as a whole, any takes on the offense tonight? They still strike out 11 times, but they mix in 4 walks, 11 hits, and 8 runs. And you mentioned on Twitter, they didn't do it with the long ball tonight. It was putting the ball in play, base hits, a real nice performance tonight from the offense.
Yeah, just 2 of the 8 runs came via the home run on Dylan Moore's home
That's
run. And, Paul Blackburn's he's a solid pitcher. He's been
yeah.
successful the last 2, 3 years. So I think getting 7 runs off him in 4 innings was a very good sign. Like you said, more strikeouts than you like to see. A lot of those kind of came on, I felt like pretty kind of close to the edge pitches as well. But yeah, all in all, a very good offensive performance.
Yeah, I think Haniger and Garver were both rung up on borderline pitches at one point. And yeah, to your point, like Paul Blackburn's a good pitcher. He's not amazing, but he's definitely someone more than capable of getting some outs. I joked on Twitter when Wu first got hurt that, well, the Mariners have decreased Paul Blackburn's trade value here, blowing him out. Maybe they can acquire him here real quick and stick him at the back end of the rotation. But yeah, I thought a real nice performance overall. I forget Dylan Moore did have the home run. I forgot about that one, but listen, I've talked about this before. I want to get your thoughts. Like, I want them to cut back on the strikeouts 100%. I think everybody would. I also don't think the strikeouts are like the worst thing in the world. I was listening to Locked On Mariners, and they were talking about, like, if you can still mix in the OBP and the slugging,
Mhm.
strikeouts are not, they're outs. Like, the outs are outs at the end of the day. Now, there's more value to putting the ball in play. I certainly understand that, but I think if you get a performance like this, I can live with the strikeouts. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree. And I know Divish has talked about this in a few podcasts, but the Twins last year set an MLB record for strikeouts, and they were a pretty good offense last year. So, I mean, that's as apparent as it can be that you can be a successful offense while striking out. I think it's frustrating as a fan to kind of sit there night after night and watch the strikeouts. Um, but it doesn't mean that your offense is doomed. I think that the offense is striking out a lot more than we would expect. I think that's part of the frustration is that a lot of these guys just, I mean, most of the roster is striking out above their career average. So that's frustrating. Um, I'd like to see it come down. I think it will, but it doesn't mean that you don't want them to go set another MLB record, right, and outdo the Twins. So if they can just get it back within reason, I think it'll lead to a little bit more success. But yeah, I would agree, it's not as huge of a deal as it's made out to be.
Yeah, and that's always kind of been my take on it. Like, I said yesterday post game, I don't need this team to be like the top 5 in the league at not striking out. I just don't want them to be on a historical pace, like you just said, for not striking out. If they're bottom 10 at strikeouts, like, I can live with that if they're kind of in that fringe area. But to your point, it's just that guys are all above their career averages and
Mhm.
strikeouts. And I think you also said it too. It's also just, it makes it more frustrating to watch. And it's not, I think even on Locked On, they talk about it, it's an aesthetic thing. It's just, it looks tough and it's hard to watch it when your team's striking out. But at the end of the day, there isn't that much difference in striking out and rolling over pitches to third base constantly. Either they're outs. So
Right.
at the end of the day, we just want the Mariners to not make outs when they come to the plate, essentially. So let's go ahead and look through the box score real quick here, and I'll get your takes on anybody that stood out to you. Josh Rojas, 2 for 5, just continues to just, I mean, a quiet 2 for 5, 400 OBP for the game, and one hit off a lefty. I mean, every game I
Mhm.
look at the box score, even when Rojas isn't a stud, he's like 2 for 4, 1 for 4. So, I mean, he's always somehow just on base no matter what. Julio Rodriguez, 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Mitch Haniger, not a bad day. 1 hit and a walk. Cal Raleigh has a base hit and a walk as well. Sebi Zavala came in late in the game, just give Cal a couple innings off. Mitch Garver works a walk. Luke Raley, a nice game, 1 for 2, 2 runs scored, an RBI. It was a line drive crushed off the wall into left center field. Nice game from Ty France, 2 for 4 with a couple RBIs. Dylan Moore, really the hero today, 3 for 5 with the home run and 5 RBIs. Luis Urias was 1 for 4 on an infield hit. Who stood out to you the most today? Obviously, Demo, I think, is the hero, but anything else stand out to you tonight?
Yeah, I think Luke Raley continues to post good at bats, which is great to see. I think, yeah, he could be an important piece for the team. So very, very impressed with him. It's good to see him drive a ball off the wall as well. Ty France after a day off with his 2 hits, I think both of them were over 100 miles an hour too.
Yep.
So hopefully, one game doesn't mean that he's back or fixed or anything along those lines, but it's a step in the right direction, right? And sometimes confidence, momentum can get somebody going. So that's great to see. Then Demo just a fantastic game, and he's to the point. He's done such a good job, and with JP's absence, that I think when JP gets back, you got to find a way to get Demo into the lineup. 3, 4,
Yep.
5 times a week, and there's enough guys struggling to where you can, and Demo can
Mhm.
play all over. So I'd like to see his name in the lineup moving forward, even when JP is back here within the next week.
Well, 100%. I think you've seen with this team too. You just mentioned Ty France gets a day off yesterday, has a pretty nice game today. We've seen Mitch Haniger get a day off and then bounce back with some good performances. And that's where, like, yes, Demo has filled in great for JP and honestly probably given you about the production you would hope for from JP. But what it does is just allows you to utilize more guys. Luke Raley can play some first base, give Ty a day off. Demo can technically even play some first base. Demo can get a start in right field, give Mitch Haniger a day off. So I think it's really just going to lengthen how you can use this roster a whole bunch to have Dylan Moore back in that utility role. And I think it's going to help everybody else come along a little bit as well.
Yep, absolutely agree.
Yeah, and like I said, Dylan Moore really the hero today. I think that's a career high with 5 RBIs. Mariners get 4 walks. Like I said, 11 strikeouts, but I can live with it when they get 8 runs. So the Mariners get game 1. They've got Bryce Miller going against, I believe it's now Joey Estes starting for the A's tomorrow. Sunday is going to be Luis Castillo, I believe, against Stripling or Wood, possibly. I'm not sure. It's still TBD on that. Any thoughts on the rest of the series here? Oakland, anything you want to see the final 2 games?
Yeah, hopefully can get the series win secured tomorrow. Estes coming up from AAA. Hopefully the bats can show up again and show out. And then you got Castillo going Sunday. And I think we've talked about before off the air, but you don't want to be trailing in Oakland. So today was a good blueprint against them. Get on them early and get a lead and don't let up. But yeah, we're in a good spot to get a series win. Let's get tomorrow and then get greedy on Sunday.
Yep, exactly. You win the series tomorrow, then you feel good going into Sunday. And like you said, really the blueprint I talked about in the series preview a little bit, you want to try and jump on these stars because if you were down to the A's after 6 innings with Urseg, Austin Adams, and Mason Miller, it is going to be very, very hard to rally for a run or two. So really important against this A's team, like to do what they did today. It doesn't have to be 8-0, but to jump out early is key because, listen, the A's have been playing better for sure. I still don't think they're a very good ball club overall. They're improved. They're much improved. I will give them that. They're fighting hard, but still a team I think the Mariners should definitely get a series win against. I never call for sweeps unless you win the first, then I'm calling for it. But, get a series win. If you can keep winning series, you're in great shape. So great win tonight for the Mariners. Back to a half game within Texas for the division. Nice bounce back after a tough loss yesterday. So just a heads up to everybody watching. Me and MarinersSUR will be back on Monday for finally we will have our monthly preview up. More of just an overview. We won't just be looking at April. We'll look at the whole picture. We're going to be pulling up baseball savant pages for all these players. So it's going to be a really cool deep dive and get a sense for not just the team's record as a whole, but dive into some of the individual performances here and what we can expect from this team going forward. Well, I appreciate you coming on with me tonight for the post-game recap. This was a lot of fun. As always, everybody watching, hit that like button. Hit subscribe, head over to Twitter, follow MarinersSUR on there, and we'll be back with you guys on Monday. I'll be back tomorrow with the post-game recap. Also, think about becoming a channel member. Planning on doing a members-only stream tomorrow night for an hour and a half. Anybody watching that wants to join that, become a channel member, and we'll have a lot of fun, hang out, and talk some Mariners. Have a great Friday night, everybody. Enjoy it. The Mariners won. Hopefully sleep a little better knowing that. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. And as always, go Mariners.